Can you explain what change management is and why it's so important in organizations?
Change management is a structured approach to transitioning individuals, teams, and organizations from a current state to a desired future state. It's crucial because organizations face continuous changes, whether it's technology upgrades, process improvements, or restructuring. Effective change management minimizes resistance, reduces risk, and ensures that change is implemented successfully.
Can you share an example of a successful change initiative you've managed?
Sure, in my previous role, I led the implementation of a new customer relationship management (CRM) system. I worked closely with the leadership team, conducted multiple training sessions for employees, and set up a feedback loop to resolve any issues. The change was successful because we addressed concerns early, provided the right resources, and maintained open communication throughout the process.
Resistance to change is often an issue. How do you deal with it?
I focus on understanding the reasons behind the resistance, whether it's fear, lack of understanding, or concerns about the impact on their role. I address these concerns through clear communication involving key stakeholders in the change process and offering support. Sometimes, small wins help in building trust and overcoming resistance.
What principles do you follow when managing change?
Some key principles include leadership support, ensuring that leadership is visibly committed to the change; communication, keeping everyone informed and addressing concerns proactively; employee involvement, involving people who will be impacted by the change in the planning process; training and support, providing adequate training and resources for a smooth transition; continuous feedback, monitoring the change process and adjusting strategies based on feedback.
How do you determine if an organization is ready for change?
I typically assess readiness by evaluating the organization's culture, leadership alignment, and past experience with change. I also survey employees to understand their perception of the change and their openness to it. If there's strong leadership support and employees are generally open to change, it's a good indicator of readiness.
What metrics do you use to evaluate the success of a change initiative?
Success is measured by a combination of factors: achieving the desired outcomes, employee adoption rates, reduction in resistance, and overall impact on performance. I also look at employee engagement surveys and gather feedback to understand the emotional and operational effects of the change.
How do you ensure that communication about change is effective?
I use a multi-channel communication strategy to ensure all employees are informed. This includes town hall meetings, emails, one-on-one conversations, and training sessions. I also ensure that messaging is consistent and transparent, with clear explanations of the why behind the change and the benefits for employees.
In your view, what role do leaders play in the success of change initiatives?
Leadership is critical. They set the tone for the change, act as role models, and provide the resources and support needed for success. Their visible commitment to the change can inspire others to follow suit. Leaders also help in making tough decisions and resolving any conflicts or challenges that arise.
Once the change is implemented, what steps do you take to ensure it sticks?
Post-implementation is crucial. I focus on reinforcement through follow-up training sessions, regular check-ins with teams, and tracking performance metrics. It's also important to celebrate successes, provide continuous support, and gather feedback for further improvements.
What challenges have you encountered in change management, and how did you overcome them?
The most common challenge is employee resistance, especially when people feel their jobs are threatened. I address this by providing reassurance, involving them early in the process, and communicating the benefits of the change. Another challenge is ensuring all stakeholders are aligned, which I overcome by maintaining regular communication and fostering collaboration among key departments.
When there are multiple changes happening at once, how do you prioritize them?
I prioritize change initiatives based on their alignment with the organization's strategic goals, potential impact, and urgency. I also consider resource availability and the readiness of the organization for each change. I work with senior leaders to ensure we are focusing on the most critical changes first, balancing short-term needs with long-term goals.
Once a change is implemented, how do you ensure it sticks over time?
Sustainability requires continuous reinforcement. I focus on creating systems that support the change, such as incorporating it into daily workflows and making it a part of the organizational culture. Regular feedback loops and check-ins help to address any issues early, while celebrating successes helps to keep momentum going. I also advocate for ongoing training and development to support the long-term adoption of the change.
How do you make sure that a change initiative fits within the company culture?
Ensuring alignment with company culture involves understanding the core values and beliefs that shape the organization. I work closely with leadership to ensure that the change supports and reflects these values. Additionally, I involve employees from different levels of the organization to get their input and make sure the change is seen as consistent with the organization's culture. Effective communication is key to making this alignment clear.
If a change initiative isn't delivering the results you expected, what steps do you take to course correct?
I would first analyze the data and gather feedback from stakeholders to understand why the results aren't as expected. This could be due to insufficient training, resistance, or misalignment of goals. After identifying the root cause, I would make adjustments to the change process, whether it's offering additional training, refining communication, or adjusting timelines. Open communication and flexibility are key to making necessary adjustments.
Change can be emotional for employees. How do you manage the emotional aspects of change?
I recognize that change can evoke a range of emotions, from fear to excitement. I ensure that employees are heard and supported by providing clear, empathetic communication. Creating a safe space for employees to express their concerns and addressing those concerns thoughtfully can go a long way. Offering reassurance, maintaining a sense of stability, and highlighting the positive outcomes of the change help mitigate the emotional challenges.
How do you approach training employees during a change?
I believe training should be tailored to the specific needs of the employees. I first assess the skills gap and identify who will be directly impacted by the change. I design training programs that are both relevant and practical, using a blend of methods such as workshops, e-learning, and hands-on practice. It's important that employees feel confident and supported as they transition to new ways of working.
How do you keep stakeholders engaged throughout the entire change process?
Stakeholder engagement is critical for the success of any change initiative. I ensure regular communication, such as weekly updates or meetings, to keep stakeholders informed and involved. I also make sure to address their concerns and gather feedback at different stages of the process. Engaging them in decision-making and making sure they feel their input is valued helps maintain their support.
How do you decide the pace at which change should be implemented?
The pace of change depends on the size and complexity of the initiative, as well as the organization's readiness. In some cases, a phased approach is ideal, where change is implemented incrementally, allowing for adjustments along the way. In other cases, a faster pace may be required to address urgent needs. I work closely with leaders to find the right balance and ensure that employees have the time and resources they need to adapt.
How do you ensure that change is accepted at all levels of the organization?
To ensure acceptance at all levels, I focus on tailoring the message and the approach for different groups. For executives, I emphasize how the change aligns with business goals and strategy. For managers, I focus on how they can lead their teams through the transition. For employees, I ensure that they understand the personal benefits of the change and how it impacts their day-to-day work. Involving employees early in the process and getting buy-in from all levels increases the likelihood of successful adoption.
Sometimes, changes come from external factors like new regulations. How do you manage these kinds of changes?
External changes, such as new regulations, can be challenging because they often come with little preparation time. I handle these by immediately assessing the impact of the change on the organization. I work with legal, compliance, and leadership teams to understand the requirements and communicate the change clearly to employees. I also ensure training is available to help employees adjust while monitoring compliance to avoid risks.